Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to yet another NFL video. It's been too long, man. As soon as I made my comeback after a little bit of a hiatus, life hits me yet again. It feels like I've been taking straight body shots lately. Bam, bam, bam. But I'm not on here to complain or anything like that. You know, I'm back. Officially, I'm back now. Unless somebody else dies. I am back consistently. So so personal stuff aside, right? As soon as I open Instagram, check my phone the last couple days, my favorite sports team, the Seattle Seahawks, appears to be crumbling alongside my personal life. So it's truly last week was a brutal test, but I'm still standing. And now I have to talk about what remains of my favorite sports team, the Seattle Seahawks, because if you're unaware, let me just let you know some stuff happened. The Seahawks no longer look like the Seahawks, at least offensively. So yeah, I'm just gonna quickly go over some of the moves that took place. And unfortunately, I have to announce the quick season recaps that I was planning to do for every team. I'm gonna have to discontinue that because the draft is coming up, and it may have been too ambitious to do 32 videos for 32 different teams. I thought I could do it, but when I end up taking pretty much like a month worth, not a month, like 3 weeks worth of breaks combined. And also, I think next year I'll figure out a better way to do it where I can actually get every single team down. But I was ill prepared to take on every single NFL team in a quick recap. Don't get me wrong, I will talk about every team when that time comes, but for now, the immediate future I see this video talking about the Seahawks. 2 days from now, make a video talking about what's taking place so far in free agency. There will be several more free agency videos after that, I have to assume, and then get back to talking about the draft. And yeah, I'm not going to try and plan too far ahead. Let's get straight into it. Thank you for sitting through that brutal intro right there. All right, let's get into it. What have my Seahawks been doing while I was away? So the first set of moves that took place were us freeing up some cap space. We were actually over the cap. We were I think there were only two or three teams in the entire NFL that were over the cap, and we were one of those teams. So we had to release these four guys right here. I'll start from the bottom. George Fant, backup rotational offensive lineman. Thanks for your service, George. No longer needed. Roy Robertson Harris, we made an in-season trade for him from the Jaguars. He was not useful whatsoever. So by Roy Robertson Harris, Rayshawn Jenkins. He was our starting safety for the majority of the season, but I think by the end of the year, Kobe Bryant ended up outplaying him. So we could not find a trade partner for him. So we just released him outright. Not a bad player. I mean, I would like to have Rayshawn Jenkins on the team as if he was our second best safety competing for that spot with Kobe Bryant, I have no problem with Rayshawn Jenkins playing like 400, 500, 600 snaps as a safety. So he's a good player, but not essential. So we have a replacement in Kobe Bryant. So we released Rayshawn Jenkins. And then Drummond Jones. This one kind of stings because if you remember the Russell Wilson trade, Drummond Jones is actually the guy I was the most hyped for in terms of a player from that move. He used to be a very versatile defensive lineman, but he has not really panned out with the Seahawks. He's just not really that good. I mean, he's not bad, don't get me wrong, but definitely not worth the amount of money that we were paying him. So he had to go, and we have a lot better players than him on the defensive line, to be quite honest with you. So his loss, I just don't think will be felt that much, to be honest with you. So these are the first set of moves we made to create a bunch of cap space that happened. And after all of these four guys got released, I was mentally prepared for the next move that took place, which was releasing Tyler Lockett. Listen, you will not find many people who are bigger Tyler Lockett fans than me. Tyler Lockett was an all pro his first 3 seasons as a kick returner coming out of Kansas State. Then he eventually just worked his way onto the field as a receiver, became not just like let me make sure y'all understand this. Tyler Lockett is one of the most underrated receivers in football. I mean, I'm sure if you're not a Seahawks fan, you are shocked to know that the man has nearly 9,000 yards in his NFL career. And by the way, depending on where he goes and really just depending on how much longer he wants to play, that number could easily break 12,000 by the end. Like if he signs a 3 year deal with the Raiders, for example, and he actually plays all those 3 years, I would be shocked if he does not break 11,000 to 12,000 yards from scrimmage. I mean, he is still, and by the way, he has had one season, this last season, one season where he was not the wide receiver one or two. His production last season did not drop because he fell off a cliff talent wise. He simply was playing alongside 2,000-yard receivers in JSN and DK Metcalf. So Tyler Lockett could go somewhere. For example, if he went to the Bills, he would be the Bills' number one receiver. I mean, there are several teams in the NFL where if Tyler Lockett went there, I think he would put up 1,000 yards and probably be the team's number one receiver. So Tyler Lockett has still got it. He could be just about anybody's number two receiver, a lot of teams' number one. And if he went somewhere to be a number three receiver, I mean that would be ridiculous as well. But I don't know what his next move is going to be. Whoever signs Tyler Lockett is getting a steal. And I mean, listen, I love Tyler Lockett, but listen, the first five moves I've talked about up to this point, I is take all the bias and my fandom out of it. Completely understandable, justifiable, and probably a good move. Look, take all the bias out of it. A team cut their number three receiver and saved I think it was like $17 million in cap space. That is an objectively good move when you don't take into consideration it's Tyler Lockett. He's one of my favorite players ever. Take that aside, cutting Tyler Lockett and saving that much money was a really good move. So, listen, I hope we bring him back. I think we still should re-sign him in free agency, especially considering what took place afterwards. I want Tyler Lockett to come back to the team, but cutting him and saving that much money was a good move that I have to be objective about when I talk about it. Now, this is where you kind of lose me a little bit. Listen, I have gone back and forth about Geno Smith over the last 3 seasons. It started off in 2022, where the guy was absolutely balling. Geno Smith in 2022 was ninth in MVP voting, and deservedly so. Geno Smith had a near all pro caliber season. Let's not downplay how good of a quarterback he was in 2022. However, the last 2 seasons, objectively, have not been as good as 2022. They've been good, but he was great in 2022. He has been good to very good the last 2 years, but incredibly inconsistent. But the point is, he's had a winning record with a whole lot of inconsistency around him, especially on the defense and on the offensive line. Not a whole lot of a run game, by the way. And I think he's had 3 different play callers. He's had at least two different offensive coordinators in the last 3 seasons. So not a lot of, and 2 head coaches, by the way, not a lot of stability, but Geno Smith, very commendable what he's done for the Seahawks over the last 3 seasons. The numbers speak for themselves. He has been very good. I was fully prepared. I thought under no circumstances would we go into next season without Geno Smith as the starting quarterback. The question for me was whether or not we draft Geno's eventual replacement this year. I never considered the fact that we would move on from Geno Smith. Now, there was a report out there that Geno Smith requested a trade after the release of Tyler Lockett. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm inclined to believe it because I really don't understand why you would move off of your starting quarterback just like out the blue for a third round pick. Let's talk about the pick we got. Is actually incorrect here. I think we actually got the 92nd over. At first, I thought it was a 68th overall pick, which I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Turns out, I think we got the 92nd overall pick, which is, obviously not so good. So I don't know how I feel about this move. We'll talk about what we did afterwards, but the move itself, trading your starting quarterback, who has been listen, Geno Smith's been good. The only debate to be had is how good he's been. I'd say he's been pretty damn good, especially considering what he was before he got to the Seahawks. So to trade that for the number 92nd overall pick took me by surprise, to say the least. Listen, going back to Geno for a second, regardless of how good you think he was or whether or not we should have paid him a bunch of money, that was a talking point as well. I think if I am inclined to believe the report that he requested a trade, it would be because we were unwilling to pay him what he was asking for in terms of a contract extension. Put all that to the side. I love Geno Smith. Geno Smith, one of my favorite quarterbacks ever. Maybe it's just recency bias talking, but I actually feel more attached and more, love for Geno Smith than I did for Russell Wilson. That probably sounds kind of crazy, but the way Russ left the Seahawks and the way he was playing those last year or two really left a sour taste in my mouth compared to Geno Smith and kind of his success story and how much of a leader he was and all the moments. Like it's weird, man. But listen, when this behind me eventually turns into a Seahawks man cave, you better believe you'll be able to see a number 7 Geno Smith jersey hanging up somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? So Geno Smith, absolutely, he's up there. He's in my personal ring of honor of just amazing Seahawks players. And this 3 year stretch truly was special. I will not forget it, and it hurts. It really does hurt. And the fact that we traded him out of nowhere, but a little bit of solace for me because I'm not one of those people where it's like when a player leaves my team, it's fuck them. I hope they fail, whatever. I hope Geno Smith is successful, especially considering he's in a different conference and he's teaming back up with Pete Carroll. I really listen. The Raiders now might be my favorite team in the AFC. Okay, I'm just saying, Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. How can I not root for that as a Seahawks fan? So I hope Geno does well with the Raiders. It's the Raiders, so who knows? But yeah, the move itself, trading your starting quarterback for the 92nd overall pick, extremely suspicious, which makes me believe that the trade request might have been a real thing. Now, me trying to recover and recoil from that move itself, DK Metcalf comes out and demands a trade. And we trade DK Metcalf. This one was just like it's so strange, right? Because for like the last year or two, it feels like DK's name has always been thrown around in trade rumors. But it's like I never really took it seriously. I was like, oh, well, this will pass. We'll pay him his money, and then it'll just be, water under the bridge. Who cares, right? But no, it is official. We have traded DK Metcalf to the Steelers. And it's so crazy, man, because here's the thing about DK. Again, one of my favorite Seahawks ever. Um, Truly a special, gifted player. But the problem here's the thing, right? DK Metcalf, you see that stat at the bottom. 60 every year of his career, he has had at least 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. That is special. That is ridiculous. We can argue about how great of a receiver DK Metcalf is, but you can never say that DK Metcalf has not been a very good receiver. From the moment he stepped into the NFL, he has been a wide receiver one. Now, the problem for me is that I don't feel like DK has ever made that step into the upper tier of wide receivers. Like I cannot argue that DK is top 5. I don't think he's top 10. And now it's been like a constant comparison of DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin. Well, Terry McLaurin just had a career year pretty much in terms of touchdowns, at least. I can't really say the same about DK Metcalf. So he goes now to the Steelers. And honestly, when you look at the contract that they gave him, I think it was 5 years, 150 million. I'm not sure if I would have been comfortable paying DK that much money. I think he's worth $30 million a year, but will he play to that value? Will he be consistently? I feel like, especially on the Steelers, with who knows what they're going to have at quarterback, I feel like it's going to be a lot more seasons for DK, 1,050 yards, 7 or 8 touchdowns. Is that worth $30 million a season? First of all, let me say it like this: if he was on the Bills, for example, I think it's like an AJ Brown situation. He was really good on the Titans, but when he went to the perfect fit with the Eagles, he turned into an all-pro, one of the best receivers in football. I think that's what could happen for DK if he went to the right situation. For him personally, I don't know if the Steelers are the right fit, but he got paid. It is what it is. He's a Steeler for the next 5 years. So I hope it works out for him again. Another conference, who cares? But yeah, DK again, another player that's going to be missed. The return for him being the 52nd overall pick, isn't that about where we drafted him at? Something tells me the number 39 overall is sticking out to me. I don't know exactly where we drafted him at, but I mean, we pretty much get what we got in terms of, the pick we used on him. So the value for that, I saw a proposed offer. It's actually just a hypothetical of Quentin Johnston and a second round pick for the Chargers. That would have been ideal for me. I would have liked to get some sort of young receiver in return because our receiver room was just completely depleted now. But we don't end up getting that. We end up getting a second round pick, which we probably will end up using on a receiver. Trey Harris, please. But the likelihood of them turning into this, the likelihood of any receiver we draft doing this in their first 6 seasons, it's very unlikely. DK Metcalf averaged 1,057 yards and 8 touchdowns a season. That's pretty damn good, man. 1,057 yards per season and 8 touchdowns. I don't know how many guys are going to be able to match that. Pretty simple. So I miss you, DK, but we move on. We ended up re-signing a couple key defensive players for us. Jarran Reed, one of the most underrated pass rushers at the defensive tackle position. We bring him back on a 3-year, $25 million deal. I think that deal was heavily incentivized. The cap hit is even lower than you may expect for that contract. That's a very good deal. Jarran Reed, very underrated. He's been around a couple teams now, 3 teams, I think. He is very consistent. You know what he's going to bring to the table in terms of generating a pass rush from the interior. I like that contract. And then Ernest Jones, this was a big one. We had no veteran linebackers on the roster, so we needed to bring back Ernest Jones. Fans are a little divided. Well, the Seahawks fans hype up Ernest Jones to the max when he only played like 5 or 6 games for us, I think. So don't get me wrong, he played well, but listen, I'm just happy we got a linebacker. Okay, linebacker was a desperate need. Now we re-signed Ernest Jones. It's not as much of a need, so I'm happy about that. Both these contracts I like. We have not really lost anybody from the defensive side of the ball. I talked about earlier guys like Vermont Jones, Rashawn Jenkins. So we kind of have replacements for those guys already. So defensively, the personnel, not really any changes to that side of the ball. It's the offense now where a lot of shakeup has taken place. And let's talk about this is when I was making this video, these were the names that were floating around in my head, right? You got the guys that we probably would have had to make a trade for, right? Young guys, unproven. Malik Willis, Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, J.J. McCarthy. If we wanted to make a move for a young guy, not pay him a lot of money and kind of build them up, those are the names I was thinking of. Then we have the free agent veterans, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. We would have had to wait and see what their team does with them, respectively. Russell Wilson as well could bring him back. And then the young guys that we could bring in the door through the draft, like Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. So a lot was going around my mind here. But the consistent report that I heard was Sam Darnold to the Seahawks. Let's talk about it because we did sign Sam Darnold. It's almost hard to wrap my mind around. Honestly, it's like I was watching Sam Darnold ball out last year with the Vikings, and it never crossed my mind for a moment that this guy would be the Seahawks quarterback next season. But that's what happened. And listen, it's a great contract. It is a spectacular, only $55 million guaranteed. That's incredible. And by the way, guys, he is 27 years old. Geno Smith is 34 years old, okay? If you compare Sam Darnold's last season to Geno Smith's 2022 season, which, by the way, we gave Geno his extension after his 2022 season, Sam Darnold is better. They're really close statistically, but Sam Darnold had a better season this year than Geno had in 2022. And by the way, his contract is basically the same. We gave Geno a 3-year, $105 million extension, and we gave Sam Darnold 3 years, $110 million. How much is that a season? It's like, what, 35? A little over 35 a year? Wasn't Geno asking for 40 plus? So you're telling me we got a guy 7 years younger who, by the way, compare Darnold to what Geno did last year? I love Geno. Geno's season last season doesn't even compare to what Darnold was last year with the Vikings. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy who severely outplayed Geno last year, 7 years younger, and he's taking less money than what Geno was asking. That all of that on paper sounds amazing, right? Here's the problem. We have 3 straight years of Geno playing well. We only have 1 year for Sam Darnold. Before that, well, the 2 years before that, he spent a year in San Fran where he didn't really get a whole lot of opportunity. And the year before that, he was in Carolina, I believe, where I think if I'm thinking about this right, 2022, I think he actually had a couple really good games with Carolina. So people are talking about Sam Darnold like the 2 years before he got to Minnesota, he was just out being terrible all over the place. That's not really the case. Sam Darnold has not been a bad quarterback for a pretty long time. Okay, he just didn't have a lot of opportunity the last 2 seasons before he got to Minnesota. And then obviously in Minnesota, you guys see the numbers right here. Sam Darnold's playing at a near all pro level last season. Okay, let's be honest about that. Now, am I concerned? Am I hesitant? Of course I am. I mean, uh, it's tough to know if he is just a product of the Viking system. Of course, you got Kevin O'Connell at the head coach. You have Aaron Jones had a breakout, not a breakout, a career resurgence, amazing season last year. He had Jordan Addison playing out of his mind. And then, of course, he had the best receiver in football, Justin Jefferson. Our entire wide receiver room combined does not equate to Justin Jefferson. I think JSN's a really good player. I think he'll be a Pro Bowler next year. I think he will take a step forward as the wide receiver one, getting the overwhelming majority of the targets, but he'll also be getting the most attention from the defense. So you got to, you got to look at both sides of it. So the good news about this is, right, he's going to be the quarterback next year, regardless of what happens. But $55 million guaranteed, if we cut him, for example, like let's just say, let's say worst case scenario, he is terrible next year. We cut him next offseason. It's not a whole lot of money. Like compared to some of these other teams who take like $100 million of dead cap, it is not going to ruin our franchise if we miss on this quarterback, right? And because it's only a 3 year contract, we still have the opportunity in the second round to go after a guy like Jalen Milroe, like Jackson Dart, like so. Our options at quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I hope Sam Darnold is the guy, and I hope it works out and he is our savior at quarterback. But if he's not, we have a way out. So this deal, listen, it, when you take the biases into account, right? Sam Darnold for $100 million. That's that. Your radar's going off. Like, wait a minute, huh? What did you just say? But then you look at it from a nuanced perspective. Sam Darnold, the guy who had 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns last year, for less money than what Geno wanted, 7 years younger. And you're like, wait a minute, it's a pretty good deal. So if we're being really objective here, you could make the argument that we upgraded at quarterback, saved money, and got a third round pick. That sounds pretty good to me. And got 7 years younger, by the way. So I am definitely not going to criticize this move yet. I'm going to wait to see how it plays out. But honestly, I like it. Up to this point, take out all my preferences and fandom out of it. I like what we've done so far, specifically at the quarterback position. DK, the move, I don't like it. I don't like trading DK unless it was 100% guaranteed he was not going to play for us. I would have liked to keep DK and pay him an extension. Cutting Tyler, I understand it. I didn't like it, but it makes sense, right? It's the right move to do objectively. I hope we bring back Tyler. It would warm my heart if we re-sign Tyler Lockett to a 2 year, $20 million contract. Please, please, John Snyder, re-sign Tyler Lockett to a 2 year, $20 million contract. Now, moving on. This is currently what our roster is. And I'll just go position by position. Quarterback, we're good. We got Sam Darnold. Running back, we have a two-headed monster at running back between K9 and Zach Charbonnet. Wide receiver, we have our wide receiver one in the future, JSN. We have the only other receivers on the team, I think, are Derek Young. Is that his name? Some practice squad guy. And Jake Bobo. That is it, okay? We need at least 2 receivers. I would not mind if we get one in free agency, but we have to draft a receiver with one of our top 3 picks. Absolutely. We need 2 receivers before next season starts. Okay. Tight end, we have a couple tight ends. I'm not worried about that. Offensive line. Um, I like our tackles. Our tackles are fine. I'm not mad if we keep our starting center the same in Olu Oluwatimi. We need some new offensive guards. If we bring back Laken Tomlinson, he was not very good, but he's not bad. Like I've said it before, if Laken Tomlinson is your worst offensive lineman, that's not the worst thing in the world. But I would prefer we upgrade at both of the offensive guard positions, preferably through the draft. But if we make a big splash in free agency, listen, a lot of teams so far have been overpaying drastically for some decent offensive linemen. I'm glad we're not one of those teams, but I'm not. Listen, I'm saying I want us to make a splash, at least one starting offensive lineman before free agency is over. That's all I'm asking. Defensively, I said it before. I don't think we need any new starters on the defense. I think we could keep our starting 11. Well, depending on personnel, we pretty much have five starting defensive linemen. I'm fine with Jerron Reed, Byron Murphy on the inside, Leonard Williams switching from inside to outside, and then our edge rushers being Derek Hall, Boye Mafi, Ochena Nwosu. I'm fine with that. Is a really solid defensive line, in my opinion. Really good defensive line, in my opinion. Stand-up linebackers being Tyrese Knight, Ernest Jones. I'm happy with both of those guys. And then secondary, Julian Love, Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. They're all really good. And then we got Kobe Bryant, Josh Jobe as the rotational guys. I think the only case you could really make on the whole defense for a new starter would be an extra cornerback, a boundary cornerback that we need. If Spoon's going to stay on the nickel, then I think Josh Jobe playing outside. Listen, he played decent in stretches, but I am not confident going into a season with Josh Jobe as a starting boundary corner. So I would prefer for us to add a corner um, whether it's through free agency or the draft. I would like another corner on the roster and then maybe another safety to compete with Kobe Bryant for the starting position. So these are all the holes that I see on our roster currently. These are some of the, this is, listen, this is our draft capital. We have 5 picks in the top 100, 3 picks in the top 52. We could make a lot. This could be a really good offseason for us if we nail the draft. We also have, I mean, if you look at our bottom 5 picks, a fourth, a fifth, 2 6ths, and 2 7ths, we have 6 picks down there. If you're telling me we can't find one diamond in the rough from those 6 picks, we're just bad at drafting. Okay. So I'm looking at least one starter from those 6 down there, at least one from the third rounders, and two, and hitting 2 of our first 3 picks, right? So I'm looking at 4 new starters from this draft at least. I'm excited, man. We have a lot of draft capital, um, and we can do some really exciting things in the draft, man. Man. I can't wait. So let's talk about some guys that I would be on. So, like my dream picks, right? That probably will not be there by the time we draft in the first round. Will Campbell, Luther Burden, Tedero McMillan. I do not think we will have a chance to get any of these guys in the first round. But if they're available, please, even if we had to trade, if like if if Will Campbell's available at number 14 overall, make a move up, give up a third round pick to jump 4 spots and get Will Campbell. Same thing for Tedero McMillan. I wouldn't necessarily trade up for Luther Burden, but if he's there at 18, it's a no brainer. Please take Luther Burden. These are some picks at number 18 that I would be very happy with. Some more happy than others, but if we took any of these guys at number 18 overall, I would say, you know what? Okay, I'm happy with that. Tyler Warren, I don't think we necessarily need tight end, but he would be our new tight end one, and I think he would make the offense as a whole much better. Emeka Egbuka, he was teammates with JSN. I think they both primarily play in the slot, but I think we find a way to make it work. They'd have the chemistry already, and I think it would be he'd be a massive upgrade at what we have instead, and he'd be our new wide receiver too. I would like that pick. Matthew Golden, he's used to playing more on the outside. He is the fastest receiver in terms of guys who ran the 40-yard dash. I'd be very excited with that. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle at Texas. Maybe he goes to right tackle. Abraham Lucas moves to guard. He would be just a major young piece at tackle. Same case for Armand Membu, Josh Simmons. Again, same thing, same story. We need help at offensive line. I think Armand Membu and Josh Simmons could produce more at guard for us. We just need help on the offensive line. Jihad Campbell, I think him and Ernest Jones as a linebacker duo would be insane. That would be amazing for us. Jalen Walker, he is more of a pass rush linebacker, but also has stand up capabilities. Like I said, we could use a second linebacker. Malachi Starks, in terms of just a guy who could do everything in the back end, I think would be very useful for us. Um, and then in the second round, these are guys, or not, sorry, yeah, second round. We have number 50, number 52 overall. If any of these guys are available, and I have a list here from wide receivers, interior offensive linemen, combo guys who can play inside and outside, defensive linemen, edge rushers. Um, if any of these guys are available, man, even some DBs, Siobhan Revel, Benjamin Morrison, linebackers, Chris Paul Jr. Like if these guys are available in the second round where we're drafting, I'm not mad at that. With our top three picks, we have a chance to really nail it, knock it out of the park. What I don't want to see, the edge rusher class is so deep. We do not have to draft an edge rusher or any defensive lineman for that matter at number 18 overall. Please, Seahawks, do not draft an edge rusher in the first round. Um, I don't want to see. Well, here's the thing. In the second round, I would not be if Jackson Dart or Jalen Milrow is available at number 50 overall. I'm not mad at it. We're hedging our bets. If Sam Darnold doesn't work, we got the replacement and built in house already. If he does work, then we trade the guy. Okay, so I'm not mad at that in the second round, but I don't want to see any running backs. I really preferably don't want to see any tight ends unless it's Tyler Warren. I don't want to see any defensive linemen in the first round. I don't want to see any interior defensive linemen in the second round. Yeah, man. But besides that, you can sell me on pretty much anything besides that. So yeah, man, that's gonna be it for me. Uh, is that it? Yeah, that is, man. First video back. I might have been rambling, stumbling, bumbling a little bit, but I hope you guys found that enjoyable. Leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you're new, and I will be back shortly, man. No more long hiatuses, breaks in between, nothing like that. Full steam ahead. We got the draft coming up. It's time to lock in. So I'll see you on the next one. Peace.